In this video, we're going to talk about measuring angles, and we're going to use a particular angle measurement called radians. So first, we're going to introduce the idea of using a circle to help measure an angle. We're going to use this idea to define radian measure, and then we're going to show an example about how we can convert from degrees to radians. So first of all, let's get a good look at a circle. And as you can probably notice, we have an x and a y axis to help orient the circle, to help show us where on that circle is the vertical distance and where's the horizontal distance. Now, when we create an angle, what we're going to do in order to visualize it, we're going to start with the positive x-axis. And what I mean by that is the right side of the x-axis. And then we're going to make the angle by drawing a line segment between the origin and a point on the circle, like so. And notice we have that angle in between. So the way we're going to measure the angle, we can do it in a lot of different ways, but the way we're going to measure an angle is we're going to find the distance between 2 points along the circle. So we're going to go from the point where it's on the circle hits the x-axis and the point where the other side of the angle hits the circle. Of course, this is kind of ambiguous because an important issue is that if you have different sized circles, those can give you different distances. So if I tell you a distance without telling you the size of the circle, you're never going to be able to tell what the actual angle is. So what that means is we need to agree on the size of the circle. And if we were doing this from scratch, we might take votes about what your favorite size of a circle is going to be. But unfortunately for us, the votes have already been taken. For radian measure, we are going to use a circle of radius 1. Right, so that means the distance from the center of the circle, which is the origin, to the edge of the circle is going to be 1. So that's why we have all those 1s there. Each of those parts of the x and y axis that go from the origin to the edge of the circle, those are all radiuses. All right, so the measure of an angle in radians is the distance along the unit circle from the point 1, 0 to the other endpoint of the angle. So let's go ahead and look at an example of a radian measure of an angle 45 degrees. And if you forget how degrees works, going around a full revolution all the way from one point, going around in a circle and ending up where you started, that is 360 degrees. And so 45 degrees is whatever proportion of that angle of that full circle you get from 45 of those. So here's what we have. We have 45 degrees, and we want to measure the distance d from that point 1, 0 to the point where that 45 degree angle line hits the circle. All right, so the way we're going to do it is, this is a frequent trick we use in math, is we're going to measure the same quantity twice, use that to help us find an equation, and then use that equation to solve for the quantity that we actually want to solve for, that d. All right, and the quantity that we're going to measure twice is we're going to measure the fraction of the circle taken up by the angle. So if you think of this entire circle as a pie, what you can do is think, okay, if I take that slice of pie that's 45 degrees, what fraction of the pie have I eaten up? And will anybody get mad at me for eating the pie? Well, that's the second question. I won't worry about that. So remember how fractions work? I mean, this is just basic from the first time you ever thought of fractions. The numerator is the part of the fraction, and the denominator is the whole of the fraction. So in this case, we're going to, first of all, look at the degrees part of this fraction. And we're looking at 45 degrees, that's our part, right? And that our whole is 360 degrees. So the fraction of the entire piece of pie that we have is 45 over 360, which we could leave like that if we wanted to, but just for fun, I'm going to reduce that. That is 1/8. You can check my work if you want. You're welcome to do that. Now, for the radians, that is going to be, the part is going to be the distance, d, right? That's what we're looking for, the radians. Now, we don't know what that is yet, so right now that's going to be an unknown quantity. Now, for the whole, that is what happens when we go all the way around the circle, the distance going all the way around the circle. So we have a word for that. That's called the circumference of the circle. And we actually have a formula for that. That is 2 pi times the radius. If you forget all that, you can ask me about it. I'll be glad to help you out with that. But in any case, our circumference is 2 pi r. We chose the radius of the circle to be 1. So it's really 2 pi times 1, which is 2 pi. So our part is d, and our whole is 2 pi, which means that our fraction is our part over the whole. All right, so let's sort of summarize what we found here. We're measuring the fraction of the circle taken up by the angle, and we did it in two ways. On the one hand, it's 1/8 because it's 45 degrees over 360 is the whole. On the other hand, it's d, which is our measure in radians, divided by 2 pi. And since those measure the exact same quantity, they must be equal. So now we have an equation where we can solve for d. So we're in great shape. So when we solve for d, I'm just going to multiply both sides by 2 pi. When we multiply both sides by 2 pi, we get d equals 2 pi times 1/8, which is absolutely fine unless you have to simplify it. Fine, I'll simplify it for you. You get pi over 4 radians. So the radian measure of 45 degrees is pi over 4. All right, so now you're ready. I think you're ready to work on the activities. The name of the file is Introduction to Radians, and it's on the PDF file included with this video.